Audio Jungle.
I'll take is like cloud computing fundamentals. What are the types of cloud computing, and what are the web services we have, and what are the things for each service. I'll be covering only few because we have like some 55 services, and it will be like increasing day by day. Even I have never worked in all those 55 services. So what are like basics, what are the things we need to know must in cloud, that thing I'll be covering. And Linux, basic Linux command, how to, what are the in cloud level, what are the Linux things we'll cover. Also like API things I'll be covering actually. So so why we go for cloud computing is like, why people migrated to cloud is like, so it is like whenever we need something we can get it, like when we can get the resources on our demand actually. So it will be like on demand delivery of our IT resource, and the model is like pay as use. So for example, if you run a 1 GB RAM server for 1 hour, you pay for that actually. So you don't want to have a hardware server, keep it for whole day. Without using it also, you don't want to keep it. So whenever we want it, we can stop it, start it. So mainly cloud computing is like whenever it is the on-demand delivery of IT resources with the, we get it through internet, pay as you go pricing model. So advantages of cloud is like cost efficient. It's like pay as you go model. For whatever maybe you want, like 1 GB RAM server, you pay for that 1 GB, and for example 500 GB, 500 MB storage, you pay for that actually. Then unlimited storage is like how much ever you want, you can extend. So Amazon provides like 5 TB storage. So in case if you feel like 1 TB is not enough, and you want maybe within fraction of seconds or minutes you want some 2 TB, 3 TB storage, so you can get it like on the go. So that is like unlimited storage. Backup and recovery, so you have like so many backup and recovery options. Cloud services they provide, but it's like the role of a DevOps engineer or cloud service, and you have to use it wisely. So you back up your data, and whenever there is a downtime, you bring it up, disaster recovery, you do that. Then easy access of info is like there is no need for you to like sit in one place, or you want to go in your data center where in case you face some issues and it's not needed, like maybe at midnight you get like some alert and you don't want to go there at the midnight to the data center and check for that. Maybe if you have an good internet connection, and if you have some a laptop or mobile, whatever, you can troubleshoot it. So that is easy access of info. Quick deployment is like very fast, like you deploy your code, you deploy your services, everything like very fast in cloud rather compared to a hardware data center. Scalability is like you can scale up and scale down whenever you want, like 5 instances. When you have one running and when you need 5 instances, within fraction of seconds you can scale to 5, even scale down when you need like less than you have 5 and you want to bring it down to 1, that also you can do. Even size of the instance, for example, you have now 2 GB RAM instance and you want to make it 4 GB, you face some CPU load issue or something, you can do it on the stretch actually. So all these things are provided by, these are the advantages why you go for cloud computing actually. Cloud, why you migrate your application to cloud. Even they say we have some disadvantage, we can say like we need a good internet connectivity. For example, if you want to connect to all our cloud servers, we need good internet connectivity. They say like it's not secure, it's like, but it's the design you use and how do you do a firewall restriction, all those things you can overcome the disadvantages. Then we have like different types of cloud computing. We like private cloud, public cloud, and hybrid cloud and community cloud. Private cloud is like, for example, some organizations they have their own cloud. For example, you say like Samsung, Oracle, they have their applications deployed in their own cloud. That's like they have a own data center and they have their own application. They never share to anyone, like third party somebody, they never share actually. Public cloud in the sense, we have like some other cloud service providers, they provide the infrastructure and we can deploy our applications in their infrastructure. So Amazon is the world leading cloud #1 service provider, cloud service provider. Then Microsoft, Google, all these things comes. Hybrid cloud in the sense we use, for example, an organization which uses both public cloud and private cloud. For example, some people feel like, okay, I can host my web servers in some other cloud provider, maybe a public cloud provider, and I'll have my database in my own cloud. So there comes, for example, they'll keep their database in their data center, and they'll keep their web servers or which can be exposed to internet, they'll keep in public cloud. So they use the mix of both private and public cloud. There comes hybrid cloud. Community cloud is like they use they use a cloud for some particular, for example, some 10 hospitals join together and they say like, okay, we'll maintain a unique cloud. We'll maintain a cloud. We'll maintain a data center and we'll store our data. So these there comes the picture of community cloud actually. So we have like cloud service models. Each cloud service provider, they choose a unique model how they can what they want to give to customers. So infrastructure as a service, infrastructure as a model, it's like we get all the infra level supports. For example, your servers, your network, your storage, all those things they provide. So Amazon is a best example. They go with this model infrastructure. So we can get all our infrastructure, and on top of that we can deploy our applications whatever we want. We can select our own platform or everything and we can use it. So that is one service. Another one is platform as this. Amazon will be a good example for infrastructure as a service. Platform as a service is like they provide, the cloud service provider provide a platform. For example, they provide a Java platform. On top of that, you build your own application. So Google, that can be, they provide that, they come up with that model actually, cloud service model, platform as a service. Then software as a service is like they provide everything. They provide you the software and you go and just use that. For example, some Gmail mail application. So in Gmail will be hosted in Google Cloud and we just use that Gmail application. So these are the three main service models we use actually. Then Amazon, like saying is why we go. What is Amazon Web Services? It is like we have so many computing services, which so many maybe your networking, your infrastructure, every network, storage, your servers, everything will be there, and it will be delivered to us over internet, which Amazon provides actually with the model as pay as you go model. Whatever you use, you pay for that. So it's like what are the advantages? It's like same like why we go for cloud computing. And that is the same advantage. We have elasticity. We can like scale up, scale down, everything you can do. Then you don't want to worry about the infrastructure. We have a maybe as today you start your application with the 5 users, and later on it may increase up to maybe in a month or something, it will increase up to 200 300 users. But you don't want to worry about, okay, if the users get increased, what I'll do, how I'll get the infra. So you can just focus on your business when Amazon takes care of your infra part. And we pay as what use. Like we know like every almost every startup, whoever it is, they are moving to cloud. So obviously whoever starts their business, they're going to host in a cloud, and Amazon provides a free tier, and we can deploy our, and we can just go ahead and try, like get our business increased, we can just pay for, we can get request more actually. So now as of today, actually today I think this is like some previous old actually. So we have like total 55 services. So I'll give an overview of like what is what, and I'll come to later like maybe in a brief discussion like whatever I'll cover actually. So this is like daily. Amazon will be almost every webinar, every seminar, like their town hall meeting, they'll introduce like new features. Mostly they'll introduce new services. I think last month they had a webinar, and they introduced some 2-3 services too. So every time they'll work on it, and based on users request, they'll be introducing new services and features. So compute is mainly like it will be like an infra based on the servers, what servers we need and all. So we have like elastic cloud compute, that is EC2. It is the primary service. I feel like without this you cannot start working in this Amazon Web Services actually. So it is a resizable compute capacity in the cloud. For example, you want like you want a server without you must have an instance, and they call server as an instance in Amazon cloud actually. So you want an instance, that is a main thing. So this easy to serve, this service gives you that option, like you can launch an instance, you can create a server for you. So this is like resizable computable. You can increase the services, you can decrease the services, you can add more number of instances, you can reduce the number of instances. All these things comes under EC2. Then elastic beanstalk, it is an application container for managing and deploying application. For example, you have an application and you don't want to use like okay, you don't want to worry about and launching an instance, and for example you want a Tomcat server, and what you can go with the option like creating a server and installing Tomcat, then running it. Rather than that, if you use elastic beanstalk, you'll say like I want Apache Tomcat, and you say like this is my war file, you just upload it, creating it in a server with Apache Tomcat, your application will be deployed. So this elastic beanstalk is an application container for deploying and managing applications. This AWS service, it is a you can run your code. For example, you have a it's like kind of similar, but you run your code, and this AWS will take care of managing your resources. For example, they say like, okay, for example, you have like a spike in your load. So this, when you use this AWS Lambda service, automatically you will get one more server and all those things. So these things will be taken. Amazon will take care of your in resources when you run on this. Actually, when you run your code, actually, this AWS container service, it is like you can run and manage Docker containers. For example, you have a like cluster, you have like big thing, and you can manage Docker containers across a cluster. For example, you have like 10 EC2 instances and you are running your application. It is a Docker service, and you can go for EC2 container service. Then storage and content delivery, it's like if you want to use some storage. So S3 is like if you want to store and retrieve any amount of data in it. For example, you feel this S3, they provide like 99.9% availability, and your data will be replicated across the regions, and you can store your data in S3 if you feel that is like highly available. If you want some data to be stored and you have to be taken like highly available, you have to store in S3. So it's the simple storage service, and you can store your store and retrieve any amount of data actually. Then Glacier is like this is like low cost storage, but if, for example, you have some data, some for example 10 terabyte of data, and you feel like you won't use that very often, you just want to store somewhere, it is like infrequently accessed data can be stored in Glacier. That is the use case actually. Then CloudFront is like if you want to distribute your content to end users with low latency and high. For example, you have a data, and your code doesn't want to go into S3, fetch the data and give to users. You want to store somewhere at the endpoint or cache, and you want to give that there comes CloudFront. Import export is like, for example, you want to for example, you are migrating from hardware data center to AWS, so you want to put ask Amazon like, I am giving my hard drive, just import data into your data center, into cloud, in that, or vice versa. From there we can get, for example, we want to store our data in hard disk, so we'll send a hard disk and say like, okay, copy my data and give back. So there comes import export system, AWS import export. Elastic file system is like it is a file storage for example, EC2 instances, they want to use like file storage. So that case we can integrate this EC2 service along with this file system, and we can use it. Then storage gateway is like for example, our IT environment have to be like our data. For example, it connects between our IT's environment and cloud actually. For example, we need for backup and disaster recovery, so we have a connection between this. In case something fails here, we'll take a backup from there and we'll use it. Then database is like RDS. Based on your need, you have to use. RDS is relational database system. It is like if you want to use some relational databases for MySQL and all those things, you can go for RDS actually. DynamoDB is like you have like it is a NoSQL data. For example, don't have any relational data, it is like just a normal storage. So you can it is like we can scale up to any height because there is no indexing, nothing. So it is a it is a scalable NoSQL data store. That is DynamoDB. Then Elastic Cache is like you want, it's like a cache storage. You put your data and it is used to retrieve first. For example, if you want to improve your application performance, so you don't want to keep your data to be like very secure or very like table format or nothing. Just put your data and you can improve the performance of your application for fast accessing the data. Then Redshift is like you have petabyte storage, you have so much data, and it's like for mainly for data warehousing and analyzing we use this Redshift DB actually. Then networking is like how do you connect with from your local, maybe you are connecting from your local office premise to AWS, and how do you maintain that? So VPC is like VPC we have like, for example, Amazon, they say like public cloud, so people will be scared like okay, I don't want to keep my instance, like I don't want a public IP for my server instance and all those things. So VPC is like virtual private cloud. There in Amazon cloud only you can say like, I want this series of IPs and I want my instance to be a private subnet, I don't want to expose to internet, and you have a dedicated connection between AWS and your office premise using a VPN. So in that case VPC comes into picture. Route 53 is like you want for your application to maintain some DNS entries. all this DNS comes into this Route 53 service. We maintain using that service. Direct connect is like if you want like very fast access of your servers. So you have a direct connect between your office premise to with some dedicated network connection from your office network or wherever you want to AWS actually. Then developer tools. This is mainly for development people. So this developer tools is like for example this code commit, what it will do does is like we have how we maintain git svn in our local system. Like that we can do we can maintain using this code commit a git repository. That is developer tools. This code commit actually. Code deploy is like a fully automated code deployment. So we have your code, Amazon take care of all infra and we can deploy the code. Then code pipeline is like actually even I have never used this, but I'm giving just a overlay and I'll explain like whatever in brief. Maybe next slide I will. Code pipeline is like, for example, if you want to release a software, you want to know like what are the steps needed, like how the sequence of process will be. So this code pipeline service we can use. Then management tools, CloudWatch is like we want to monitor all our resources. We can get a graph format or we can get log and all those things. So we can monitor all our metrics. For example, CPU utilization, disk utilization, memory utilization of all servers. There comes this CloudWatch. Then config service is like we have like so many resources. Maybe for example, we have 100 servers. We have some 5 RDS instances and we are using VPC and you are using Elasticsearch. So you want an inventory, like you want to get an audit of what are the resources you use. And for example, somebody is changing some instance type and you want to get a notification. In that you go with this config. You can enable config service. Then service catalog is like for example, you have all services and you, for example, you want like 100 instances and you want to give to 100 employees of your company. Then you use the service catalog. So IT resources management, like how an IT team performs, the service catalog we can use. Cloud formation is like however how all we do all this task manually, we can keep a template and we can automate the process. For example, in disaster you know like you are hosting your application in one region, and in case something fails, what you will do? So you'll create a disaster plan. In that case, you create some templates like, okay, these instances has to be launched, this VPC has to be created. So you do something, you create it and you save in S3, and whenever the time something happens, goes wrong with this data center, you go to that backup region, just run that template. So automatically all your resources will be created actually. So that there comes this cloud formation actually. Then ops work is like it is a DevOps platform. Mainly they say we can manage our application, we can scale it, and we can we can manage it. That is like ops work. DevOps people it's used. And trusted advisor is like when we use this service, they see your usage of resources and they suggest us like, okay, you can use this instead of this, so you will get it, like your thing will be secure, you will get more, you can save more money. So they will give some advice on your usage actually. CloudTrail is like, for example, you gave like so many for example, in your account you have some 10 users. You want to track like who is doing what, who is calling which API, who is using which resource. So this CloudTrail logs, when you enable this logs will be stored in S3 and you can access it. Like, okay, this time something went wrong, some instance got terminated, you have to know who terminated that or who deleted that instance. So you can go to this CloudTrail logs and check like, okay, this person deleted this. So to track all your resources, you can this CloudTrail actually. Then security in the audit, it's like mainly to secure your account. For example, this IAM is identity and access management. So you have some 100 people in your organization and you don't want to give admin access to everyone. So for developers, you have to give some API call access. For testing people, you need to give some people. For some people, they need just the console access, read-only access. So all these things you take care using this IAM, identity and access management. Then inspector is like this when you enable this service, it will inspect your AWS resources and checks like, okay, whether it is secure, whatever you are running, it is secure or it's not secure. comes this inspect service. Then directory service is like it manage all the directory. For example, you want to maintain like so many directories of your data. In that case, you go for this. WAF is a web application firewall service. It protects your, for example, you have a web application and you want to protect it. For example, some SQL injection or some hijack. You can, if you enable the service, it protects your web application from that scenarios. So it is like web application firewall. Then analytics is like if you have so much data and you want to analyze the data. So EMR is elastic map reduce. For example, you want to do some data mining activity, you have so much data. In that case, you use this. Elastic search service is like for example, you have like Elastic Search, which is a open source engine. So if you want to use that, you want that infra setup, you go for this Elastic search service. Machine learning is like first you can build your some smart application, some robotics application kind of thing. You can use this. Data pipeline is like for example, you have some periodic data and you have like full data driven workflows. In that case, you can go use this data pipeline. Kinesis is like real-time streaming of data. For example, you have some data which has to be checked, which is a real-time data, and you want to check that real-time streaming of data, that you can work it. We can make it easy to work using this Kinesis service. Enterprise of application is like for example, you don't want to you have some 50 employees and you don't want to provide any hardware, I mean any like highly configured desktop. Just you give a desktop and something, say like okay, you whatever you want use in cloud. So workspace is like they provide desktops, individual desktops. It is like you just connect to IP. Maybe you have a glass tab or something, just log into that and connect. You can connect to a cloud server, so you can access this wherever you go. It will be like your personal desktop. Workmail is like Gmail only, they provide cloud like Gmail. Amazon provides this. Even Workdocs is like they provide all this Word, Microsoft Word and all those things. Actually fully managed they provide fully managed storage and sharing service. That is worked out. Internet of Things is this IoT. This is recently developed service. It's like you can have a single cloud server and you can connect all your home-based applications. If you have internet connection with your fridge, with your washing machine, everything you can control using that. Just like using a remote, and you do that. Even security and everything. This mobile services all is like for mobile application. Whenever they want to do this mobile application, here actually SNS is like simple notification service. We use this in conjunction with this CloudWatch. For example, we configure some alarm like okay, see when CPU utilization exceeds some 80%, trigger me an alarm. In that case, you'll integrate with SNS and you will get a, you can configure like if you want a mail notification or you want a message notification, you can do that. Then application services, it's like all how you manage your application. For example, if you want to maintain this elastic transcoder is like for example, you have some videos has to be streamed, to your application. Your application is in cloud. In that case, elastic transcoder which converts your video to the cloud supporting format and it will stream to the application. Then SQS is simple queue service. You can process your jobs in queues and you can send it. And okay, SCS is the mail service. For example, you want to send, you can have a group added with all emails. You will verify the user and you can send mail to these people. So these things okay, I think this is repeated. Okay, so these things are the main thing. So mainly what I'll cover is I'll cover this EC2. EC2 is a vast topic. It is like managing all your servers. That is ELB. You will have load balancer. You have 100 servers and you want to route traffic across this 10 servers. Take an example. You want to route traffic across these 10 servers in a round robin fashion. You use a weighted algorithm fashion. Auto scaling, for example, you have your application, you don't know when your application goes. For example, you have 5 servers and at night you're sleeping, you get your traffic more and you don't want to get disturbed. So you create auto scaling group and automatically whenever CPU rises in across 80, you configure that 80 automatically instances will be launched, and when it comes down and it will be terminated. Then EBS, it is like EC2 instance. When you launch, you'll get by default some storage and you want to increase the storage, you can go this. Then Beanstalk to deploy the application. Network, these things I'll be covering in detail. Actually, networking, so Route 53, how do you create a domain, how do you create a DNS entry for your server. For example, you have a server and you deploy your application. I want somebody to access from outside, maybe www.test.com. How will route to that DNS actually. Then VPs, how I can create my virtual public, virtual private cloud, how I can create my own private cloud in Amazon public cloud. Then storage, how I can create an S3 bucket, how I can store the data, put the content, how I can retrieve it. And Amazon Glacier, how I can create some uh, Glacier job and how I can store the data which I won't use frequently. Then content delivery, how I can make it, like how I can create an edge node and use in my code, how I can do that. Then database service, relational database, how I can create a RDS instance, how I can log into that. Maybe for a developer will ask, like, I want a MySQL instance. So how I can create that MySQL instance, and I can give the developer that endpoint, how I can restrict the traffic. Even security groups comes into picture, like how, what all traffic I should allow, what all traffic I should deny, these things. Then DynamoDB, how we can create this NoSQL database. Then Elastic cache storage, how we can create that. That comes. Then management tools, how we'll create a CloudWatch alarm, how we'll configure my metrics, what are the types I can do, how Amazon provides default some metrics. For example, I want to monitor my own metrics, how I do that. Then CloudTrail, for example, I want to enable monitoring for my whole AWS, how I'll do that. Then queue system, how I can process my jobs in queues, how we can send that, on what basis I'll do that. Simple email service, how I can verify some senders, and how will send some mail to people. For example, bulk mails I need to send for 100 people. Rather than using Gmail, I can use this Amazon and I can send it. Then IAM, how I can create users, restrict roles. Maybe for example, one user can, I should give policy, access to only some folder in an S3 bucket. How to create these policies. Then SNS, how I can send some notification mail pin and CPU alert, process some 80% something to my mobile or my mail. Then how I can use this API. For example, we need to install CLI, command line interface. We can use everything through console. And for our more clarity, if you want to use a shell script or you want to automate some process, obviously you need to write a script. In that case, you need to install CLI, command line interface, and there you can call this AWS APIs. For example, Python has separate API, and shells for Linux they have separate API, and Ruby they have separate API. So how we can use them? Then S3 browser, we have some buckets, we put the data, we have some third-party content providers. So we don't want to give them access to this AWS console, and they have to install some from their local machine. They should have access to only that. In that case, how I use this S3 browser. Then basic Linux command. For example, we mostly AWS, everybody will be using Linux service. Very few people will use Windows. So how we can launch, how that logging into Linux instances, how we'll create users, how we'll install some softwares, how we'll manage that. For example, I have for some 8 GB storage. If I want to store, add some more extra volume, 100 GB, how we'll mount it, how we'll create a file system for that. Then, for example, I want to troubleshoot my CPU usage, disk usage, all those things. These things I'll be covering actually.